Hello, welcome everybody. This is Should I Stay or Should I Go South? I'm David Grossman, and I'm going to be running a webinar series about people, whether they should stay in their homes, whether they should downsize, upsize, right size, or go south, something that's very, very popular nowadays. Um, People are looking to either move to a nicer climate, spend part of the year working there, especially since COVID. It's been, people are not as tethered to their offices as they once were. So they can really work from anywhere, myself included, as a mortgage broker. Our business totally changed. And that's why I moved to Wasaga Beach, which is a wonderful place to be in the summer. But in the wintertime, my oh my, we have a lot of snow. So I did visit Playa del Carmen a few years ago and had a great time. Had a great time. So we're going to learn from Letitia about real estate opportunities for vacation properties or whatever during this webinar. And I'm also going to be talking about mortgage solutions for seniors, for self-employed, ways that people can access the equity in their homes in a creative manner to afford them opportunities to do different things like buy vacation properties. So that's what this webinar is about. It's going to be over by 7:30. It's going to be 1 hour or less. And let me give a proper introduction for Letitia, and then she'll take it away. Letitia Montana is a former Torontonian who's called Playa del Carmen home for the past 5 years. With a background in financial services and Canadian real estate investing, she now leads Freedom Playa Real Estate, a boutique firm helping Canadians and international buyers acquire second homes and investment opportunities in Mexico's Riviera Maya, including Playa del Carmen, Tulum, and Puerto Morelos. She proudly partners with Menes Condos, one of the region's top developers. Letitia is a founding member and past president of Inspiring Speakers PDC. What does that stand for, Letitia?
Playa del
PDC.
Carmen. Playa del
Hello.
Carmen.
Of course, the first English-speaking Toastmasters club in the Riviera Maya. She enjoys running, CrossFit, mountain climbing, and is a proud mom to her 11-year-old son, Anthony. She also shares Riviera Maya real estate insights on her YouTube channel at Freedom Playa. Welcome, Letitia. The floor is all yours. I will make you a co-host so that you can share your slides.
Thank you kindly, David, for that introduction and also for the opportunity to speak to your audience about the beautiful Riviera Maya. As people could hear from my bio, I am a fellow Canadian, former Torontonian of 24 years. Prior to that, I lived in Romania, my homeland. I made the choice to move to Mexico, Playa del Carmen in particular, more than 5 years ago. During COVID, things got a little intense for my liking, politically speaking, and I wanted more freedom. And this part of Mexico was one of the freest places in the world during that time. I had come here before as a tourist, and I've always loved it. I always wanted to stay longer. At the time, my work was not remote. I was working as an insurance broker in Canada. Everything was paper-based. Everything went digital during COVID, as David aptly pointed out, and that allowed me to make this transition. Lo and behold, shortly upon my arrival, some of my Canadian clients and contacts were asking me to help them with rentals, shortly afterwards with purchases. So I pretty much ended up falling into a career in real estate here, which has proven quite enjoyable for me. It was an easy transition. I am fortunate to speak Spanish, something I learned in university 20 years ago. It is Romanian and Spanish happen to be similar languages. Even if I didn't speak Spanish, I knew that Playa del Carmen is a location that's very international. And we're going to talk a little bit about Playa del Carmen, the Mexican Caribbean as a location in case any of you are interested. And I would assume that if you're tuning in tonight, you have some level of interest in learning more about this region. So am I okay to share my screen, David?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, perfect. And all right, back to Zoom. I have to click on the screen share. Okay. I have a few different slides ready, my friends. One is from a presentation I actually did recently in Canada, and we were prepared to deliver this presentation at David's group. This was in conjunction with the manager at one of the top developers in this area. Now, as David mentioned, I work independently. I have my own boutique firm called Freedom Playa Real Estate. I have the opportunity to work with many different developers, builders. I can offer my clients the entire marketplace in this area. I do like this particular developer because they have a solid track record, and I'm gonna use a few of their slides because they put some beautiful statistics together. So the question was, why invest in the Mexican Caribbean? By the way, if at any point in time any of you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand and I'm happy to address them, okay? I'm gonna just share with you some slides. I don't know how many of you have had the opportunity to visit this region. It definitely has some striking natural beauty. The sea oftentimes has this color, especially this is a picture from Tulum, an hour south of where I live in Playa del Carmen. The turquoise waters are pretty impressive. Okay, huge coastline. We also have this natural wonder of the world called cenotes, which are natural formation. It's a mix of sweet water from the underground rivers and ocean water, and some of them are completely enclosed in cave systems. Some of them are open water, so you can go swimming them, literally swim with fish. When it gets really hot in the summer, that is a very popular pastime in this area. They're absolutely beautiful. A lot of them, if they're not free for entry, they're very inexpensive to visit. The second largest reef system in the world. So of course, snorkeling, scuba diving are popular pastimes in this area for those of you who enjoy that. Of course, the climate, what I can tell you as a former, well, I'm still legally a Canadian passport holder, but as a former Canadian resident, I remember the past few winters living there, I was getting what's called SAD, seasonal affective depression. I was not happy. I was not a happy camper anymore. And I can tell you my mental health has definitely improved living in this warmer, sunnier climate. 300 sunny days per year, my friends, and temperatures, well, that is in Fahrenheit. I can tell you, well, I don't know why. Well, this presentation was also for our American friends. So let's see, and what is it, Fahrenheit? Do you know what that would come to, David?
Sorry,
Fahrenheit to Celsius. Fahrenheit
w-
to Celsius. So 75 Celsius.
oh,
So that's
well,
70
75 Fahrenheit is
is 20.
probably 22,
I
23.
just checked it out. It's 23. It's almost 24 Celsius, and then 89, that would be about 31 Celsius. So it is always warm here. Like I said, at this time of the year, it tends to get a little bit cooler during the evenings and mornings. Nothing that a light jacket or a shawl couldn't take care of. And I was almost apologizing to some Canadian visitors recently. Oh, it's a little cooler than it should be at this time of the year. And they're like, oh, believe me, it's a lot better than in Canada right now. Like, I'm not worried. All right. The history of this area. So the whole Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico was the, what do you call it? The foothold of the Mayan civilization. So the whole area is rich with Mayan vestiges, pyramids. We have a Mayan culture museum in the Cancun area, which is just an hour north of Playa del Carmen, that I would encourage folks to visit. You've all heard of Chichen Itza, one of the, I think it's considered one of the new seven wonders of the world. And that's about a 2.5 hour drive inland from Playa del Carmen. So definitely a popular location. So lots of, as you can see here, 20 Mayan archaeological zones. So if you do enjoy history and visiting this sort of sites, the whole region is very rich in this sort of archaeological sites. The Mexican cuisine It's been named one of the cultural heritage of humanity. Es Patrimonio Cultural de la Humanidad, un UNESCO cultural heritage of humanity. One of it's on the list of that, and I don't have to say any further. As you can see, this is a Mayan dish. As you can see, ranked in the top 10 dishes in the world. Definitely, when you come to Playa del Carmen or this whole area, you're gonna enjoy a lot of different cuisine, both Mexican, Mayan, and international. In terms of this area, and this is something that may be of interest to you guys, and I know Mexico competes potentially with other Caribbean destinations in terms of a sunny investment destination. As you can see, Mexico does lead significantly in terms of the number of visitors, in terms of the numbers of millions per year. This is based on 2023, 2024 figures versus other warmer destinations or warm weather destinations. Okay. And within Mexico, I'm sure those of you who may or may not have come to the Riviera Maya. So this area where I'm located, Playa del Carmen, the Riviera Maya, accounts for 47.9% of all the international visitors coming to Mexico. Within Mexico, yes, we have other popular locations. Some of you may have heard of Puerto Vallarta, Los Cabos. As you can see, in terms of the actual tourist traffic, the bulk of the visitors are coming to the Riviera Maya, where we have cities like Cancun, Playa del Carmen, Tulum, and some emerging destinations such as Puerto Morelos, Puerto Aventuras, and even further south, you might have heard of Bacalar, Mahahual. These are beautiful developing destinations in this area. All right, so with that said, let me see what else. And more statistics in terms of cruise ship passengers. Again, huge number of, well, airplane, cruise ship passengers. Interestingly enough, 50% of all the foreign exchange transactions that happen in Mexico come through in this area. So that kind of gives you an idea of where the foreign money is coming within Mexico. Okay, high occupancy rates on hotels, but we're going to talk specifically about real estate in this area. And I'm going to try to kind of speed up because I know we have limited time, David. Some of you may have heard of some of the incredible infrastructure projects in this area. As of about a year and a half ago, in Tulum, or about 20 minutes south of Tulum, which is about an hour and 20 minutes south of Playa del Carmen, we opened the Tulum International Airport. It is called Felipe Carrillo Puerto after a former president, but just so you know, this is another international airport in addition to Cancun International. And you might have also heard of the Mayan Train project. This is a major infrastructure project that the Mexican government at all levels has been fully behind. It was sort of like the pièce de résistance, I don't know how you call it. It was the legacy piece for the former Mexican president that was very well loved by the people. This was a $20 billion project. It's a high velocity train that connects all these desirable touristic sites within the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico, including Cancun Airport, Playa del Carmen, Tulum, and it's actually connecting 5 different Mexican states in this region and provides easy access to some of the archaeological sites. So if you have a bit of time on your hands and you want to really get a feel for this area and visit some of these archaeological sites, you can do so in style in this high velocity train. Okay, this is another natural reserve in the Tulum area that was inaugurated last year. They literally built a lot of touristic infrastructure in this area. And in the Tulum area, international music festivals are very popular. I don't know if you've heard of Zamna. It's an electronic music festival. Some of the other things that are in the works. Now, I have heard about this for a few years. It's not happened yet, so I'm not going to promise you that we're going to have this. Let's skip this one. A Formula One racetrack in Puerto Aventuras. It's more of a, I mean, I keep hearing it's confirmed, but we don't know. But what we do know is that the local Playa del Carmen president has officially announced, the tourism department has announced these 2 beautiful projects. So they're called Miradores. This is their observatory. One is going to look towards the ocean and the other one is going to look towards the jungle that is towards the inland of the Yucatan Peninsula. Okay. And in the Tulum area, they're opening a new shopping mall. Okay, one thing that often people hear about Mexico is that, oh, I heard that foreigners are not allowed to own property in Mexico. This is a common misconception. And I would like to answer that because I know a lot of people have heard, oh, you're not allowed to own property in Mexico. And what happened, David, and I might have shared this with you already, back in the turn of the last century, Mexico lost a lot of land to the United States. They lost Texas, part of California, what is now New Mexico. So they lost a lot of land. So they decided to put it in their first constitution of 1917 that foreigners could not own land in the border area, specifically within 100 kilometers of the land borders or within 50 kilometers of the coast. Now, some 60 years of Mexican government later, they realized, oh gosh, this is really stifling foreign investment in the country because the coastal areas, of course, are the most desirable of any country. Just look at Florida. We have a lot of Russian, Colombian investors in Florida, just to give you an example. So what they decided to do is come up with a roundabout solution, a way for foreigners to be able to own property in these desirable areas and allow foreign investment in the country, but at the same time, they didn't want to go against their constitution. So they came up with a pass-through structure. They allowed Mexican banks to act as a fiduciary holder of a bank trust. The foreign buyer becomes a beneficial owner of the trust. You have the exact same rights as any Mexican. You can sell your property, you can heir it to your children, you can rent it out. If in the future you decide to sell your property and in the meantime you've become a Mexican resident, you can exempt capital gains taxes. We have capital gains taxes in Mexico. I don't want to get into the details, but bottom line, the trust ownership gives you the same rights as any Mexican, okay? And people sometimes are concerned, they're like, oh, can the bank take away my property? I have looked at property titles, and I can tell you, my friends, the bank is very specific in what their rights and obligations are. For example, if you take on a mortgage on the property, they want nothing to do with it. Their rights are only limited to being the title holder, okay? And again, this was strictly done for, you could say, symbolic reasons. And I also want to tell people they really have no other rights except to hold title. And for that benefit, they for that privilege, they charge you an initial setup fee, which is about 2,300 US dollars. And then it's about 500 US dollars per year for the trust to be kept in place. The trust is good for 50 years, and it's renewable in perpetuity. In Spanish, the word is fideicomiso. Again, you have the exact same rights. You are the beneficiary holder. If at some point in the future you decide to become a passport-carrying Mexican citizen, you can dissolve the trust and own the property in your own name. Now, if you're buying property somewhere else, like in Mexico City or in the center of Mexico, this border provision doesn't apply. You can own property in your own name. But of course, if we're talking about owning property by the beach, then okay, think of it as the foreign buyer tax. Okay, we have that in Toronto for other demographics or for other nationalities. Well, look at it that way here, okay? And everything is done through the public registry office, everything, and as you can see, the bank cannot act without your written consent. The interesting thing about the bank trust figure is that when you as a foreign buyer buy, immediately in the trust, you get to name who your beneficiaries are. So for example, if a couple is buying, it's often the case that husband and wife put themselves as the owners, and then they put the children as alternate beneficiaries. If God forbid something happened to one of the spouses, the property rights go immediately to the other spouse. If something God forbid happened to both, it passes down to the children. So, and you don't, it essentially acts as good as a will. So it's very seamless, okay? If you choose to sell your property to another foreign buyer, it's a very easy, a seamless process to simply change the beneficiary of the trust. It makes things faster for the other buyer. It's also a bit cheaper because they don't have to go through the setup process. And technically, if you yourself are buying from another foreign buyer, 95% of the cases, they also have the same figure in place. Years ago, some foreign buyers were advised to set up a Mexican corporation. That has fallen out of favor because Mexico, like Canada and the US, has anti-money laundering legislations. And if you're owning a property on a corporate basis, first of all, there's no capital gains exemption available. There's 30% income tax on Mexican corporations, so it's not very advantageous. And in addition to that, you need to have a corporate bank account. So it makes the sale of the property more difficult on the back end. So I would not recommend that. The trust is definitely the way to go. Okay. Hopefully that's, now, my gosh, there's a lot to talk about. I realize I only have about 10 minutes. I wanted to give you guys, and this talks about how it works in terms of buying property here. Perhaps we can, if somebody has if somebody has questions about that, we can talk about it separately. What I wanted to take the time to do now is kind of give you guys an idea about property prices in this area in case any of you are interested. Would that be okay, David, do you think?
Yes, of course. Please go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay, I have another slide deck available for that, so I'm gonna just switch my screen share. Give me 1 second. Mhm.
It's not like I'm going to cut you off right at 7. We were a little late in starting, so if people are interested, and folks, don't forget to you can comment or put up your hand or whatever if you have questions.
So this is another presentation I did recently, and I've just updated a bit for the purpose of today's presentation. And this presentation was titled Playa del Carmen Real Estate Market Update, and I'm going to give you an idea of what's going on in this area, what the prices are for any of you who may be interested, and why Playa del Carmen, and I'll also share with you a map of the region so you know where we are. But essentially, you'd be most likely flying into Cancun International Airport. Cancun is already a large city of about 1 million people. We have the Cancun Hotel Zone, which is a popular area if you're coming to a 5-star all-inclusive resort and all you want to do is come there for a week, enjoy a week of just laying on your back and then go back to Canada. But if those of you are interested, if you are interested in a property that you perhaps would be able to occupy personally for a few months of the year or even year round, my opinion is that Playa del Carmen offers it's a much better location. Playa del Carmen is a city of about 330 to 350,000 people. It has entire areas that are walkable where you can walk to the beach, walk to the grocery store. I'll talk about it in a moment. But what's happening right now, and as of the past few years, I think many Canadians and Americans are beginning to open their mind to a world outside of Canada's borders and thinking, okay, maybe whether for weather reasons or just other reasons, people are looking to either diversify their holdings or maybe just have a plan B out there. And talking about again Playa del Carmen, 1 hour south of Cancun International. It is a very busy international and well-connected international airport. We have many direct flights, including in and out of Toronto, Montreal, many Canadian and American cities, direct flights. We're in the same time zone as the EST time zone. About half the year we move to Central. Actually, we don't move. Playa del Carmen is always on the EST. However, cities like Toronto, New York, they go back with the DST, go back and forth. So at most, we would have a 1 hour time difference, which makes things convenient for any remote workers, anybody, someone like David. In fact, David, I do have a lady who's a mortgage broker in Alberta. She and her husband are currently here in Playa, and I see that she just closed the deal remotely. So it's entirely possible to do that. Okay, we spoke about the new Tulum airport, some images of the new Tulum airport when it just opened. Now, speaking about Playa del Carmen itself, I mentioned to you, it's a city south of Cancun, about 1 hour south. And this yellow line that you see in the center is the highway that connects Cancun to Playa del Carmen and further south to Tulum. The properties that would be most of interest to a foreign buyer are usually on the beach side of the highway. On the beach side of the highway, we primarily have modern, beautiful condo buildings with amenities such as pools, gyms, co-working areas, and we have a combination of studios. In Canada, we call them bachelor suites, 1 and 2, and some 3-bedroom units. Some of the units will feature private rooftops, sometimes with pools, jacuzzi. And then we also have some older style, colonial style condos that were built some 20 years ago. The city of Playa del Carmen is only 32 years old, so it's a very, very much an emerging destination. It is also one of the fastest growing cities in Latin America. I remember looking on Wikipedia and it said it was the fastest growing city in Latin America. This was about a year and a half ago. We have had double-digit population growth in this area year over year for the past 20 years. So it's a very dynamic area to be in. It's a small but international city. Myself, as a former Torontonian, I appreciate that because I think it'd be hard for me, even though I speak Spanish fluently. I don't know if I would want to live in a place that is 100% Mexican, where I don't have, Indian food and Thai food and fellow Canadians, Americans, Western European. It's very diverse. A lot of South Americans. Okay, let's talk about the prices. So there is a bit of a difference between what we call brand new inventory or pre-construction versus resale inventory. those are prices, and I'm going to show you some sample units just to give you an idea, okay? And I know some of you may say, oh, that's so expensive. I thought Mexico was going to be cheap. There are definitely other locations in Mexico where you can get properties for lower prices. Keep in mind, we're talking about a city where these prices that I'm showing you are for locations in brand new buildings with spectacular amenities where you're at the beach in 10 minutes, okay? And you can walk to the grocery store, walk to beautiful coffee shops, restaurants. It's a very picturesque and well, I'd like to say desirable lifestyle, but I will let you be the judge of that. Hopefully you can pay us a visit, okay? So those are brand new units. And this is what a brand new studio unit would look like in one of these buildings. This is a sample 1-bedroom unit in an upcoming building here, okay? A lot of the new buildings will come furnished, or sometimes they come either just equipped, meaning air conditioners, ceilings, fans. A lot of times they come fully furnished. So they make it easy for you guys as foreign buyers. Resale inventory, so properties that somebody bought a few years ago from a developer, now they're reselling them. This is where I think you can get some better deals, because you can often negotiate the price. It's the difference between buying a brand new car versus buying a resale car. Usually you're able to get a better deal on a building that's a few years old. I'm going to show you some pictures and you'll see they're not bad looking units. And I think unless you are the type of client that wants the newest, the best, which, hey, there are some clients like that. I have had clients that, no, I want the newest, I want the most beautiful amenities. If your budget allows for that, of course, go for it. Otherwise, for more budget-friendly clients, there's definitely more negotiating room available if you're buying a unit that's a few years old. Still beautiful buildings and amenities. Okay, so to give you an idea, this is a studio unit that's for sale. It's priced at 150K US. It's a small studio, about 35 square meters. Luxury building, that's the rooftop of that building. Okay, so not bad. Well, I'd like to say not bad. Right here, we have a couple of, just to give you an example, these are pictures of resale 1-bedroom units. The one on the left is priced at 229K US. It's almost 70 square meters, about 700, what do you call it? How many square feet? It's 70. And again, this is a building both of these buildings are a 10-minute walk to the beach. 753 square feet in the case of the first unit. The one on the left is a bit smaller, 53 square meters. Property sizes are often quoted in square meters here. The one on the left is 570 square meters. It's priced at 249K US. Both of these can be negotiated a little bit. Usually, it's not uncommon to see a 5 to 7% negotiating margin. This is a newer 2-bedroom resale unit. It's priced at 330. It could definitely be negotiated to 300K. It's a very spacious 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom unit in another building that's a 10-minute walk from the beach. Gorgeous amenities, rooftop pool, good sized gym, 24/7 security, reception. Yeah, this is a very spacious 3-bedroom unit. It's about 149 square meters. These units are going for about 349,000 US. And oh, okay. Oh, I see somebody's wanting to get in, David. Okay. And this would be an example of an older style unit. This one already sold, but we do have units like this on the market. This one was offered at 200K, and I think it closed to very close to that. Unfortunately, I didn't have the buyer. I was showing it, but eventually somebody else had the buyer, but that's what you can expect. So this was, again, a very spacious unit, 10 minutes from the beach, okay? Again, I don't want to get into too many details. We do have a number of gated communities in Playa del Carmen sometimes. So the buildings I was referring to you about, the modern condo buildings, they often will have on-site reception security. They are not in gated communities. The beachside of Playa, it's very walkable. Like I said, you could walk to the beach, walk to the grocery store, but the building itself has, a lot of times they would have in-person security, cameras, everything you need. But if you are the type of client that prefers to be in a gated community, we do have the Playa Car neighborhood. It's located around the golf course, very exclusive, very beautiful. It has direct beach access. It tends to be a bit higher price than the downtown walkable part of Playa. We can talk about that, I know, in the interest, but this is one of the nicest buildings we have in the Playa Car neighborhood. To give you an idea, this is what you can expect there, my friends. Absolutely amazing gorgeousness. You have to come and visit for yourself. You will fall in love, I can tell you that. Whew. spectacular amenities. Now, this is actually a unit that one of my client owns. This is actually a 2 bedroom. The 1 bedrooms in this building, to give an idea, are around 300K US if you can find one on a resale basis. This building was fully delivered by the builder, but they do have another building currently in pre-construction delivery within a year and a half. Starting price points around 200K for 1 bedrooms. And this is another building that's currently in pre-construction. That is an actual picture of their showroom. 2 bedrooms in this building start at about 400K US. Again, not inexpensive, but you get what you pay for. These are buildings with incredible amenities. You really are living, you give yourself this dream lifestyle. Like,
Question?
yeah, I
You
don't know if I,
take any
yes,
questions yet? Okay.
of course, go ahead.
Okay. So, um, who's occupying these buildings typically? I mean, are these people who are living in Playa del Carmen all year round? Are people living there part of the year? Are they doing short-term rentals? Are you allowed to do short-term
Yeah.
rentals? And what does that look like? Is that market still active?
Oh, yeah. Thank you for asking, David. So the good thing about this area is that the government here has not been as strict as in other areas, where they really have cracked down on Airbnbs. So in this area, you don't have restrictions on short-term rentals. I am yet to come across any building that restricts short-term rentals. So you're allowed to do nightly rentals, monthly rentals, long-term rentals, whatever you prefer. I think the type of rental you decide to do, so the area is actually very strong from a rental perspective. I showed you earlier the type of tourist numbers we have, the tourism numbers. There is some seasonality to the Playa real estate market. So for example, if you have a vacancy in the winter time, well, you're not going to have it for long because it's just insane. Everything is just booked like crazy in this area at this time of the year. If you have a vacancy in the summertime, you do have to be more flexible with your rents. And again, I think it's going to depend a lot on the client, if you want to personally occupy your unit, especially in the winter months, those are typically our highest rental income season of the year. And if if you choose to personally occupy your unit sometimes of the year, it makes sense that you're going to be doing some vacational rentals the rest of the time. You also have the option to put in place a medium tenant. What I mean by medium length would be 1 month, 3 months. We have digital nomad clients that some of them prefer to come here in our traditional lower season, which are our summer months, because rents are lower. They know they can get a better rental deal. In the Playa Car neighborhood, for example, we see a lot more long-term tenants. So 1 year leases are not uncommon. But of course, if you are an owner that wants to occupy the unit, obviously you're not going to be able to sign a 1 year lease and say, oh, hey, you need to move out. But to give an idea of rental figures in this luxury building, well, you know what? We're going to talk about rental figures shortly because I have another table that I prepared. So again, there are a few other neighborhoods on the non-beach, just to finish with the types of properties we have in Playa del Carmen. On the non-beach side of the highway, we tend to have we have a variety of gated communities, some more exclusive than others. This on the right is actually a picture of the house that I rented to a Mexican executive and his family earlier this year. The house actually looks like that. It's a brand new home. And to give an idea, it was rented at, 40,000 as an unfurnished. This was a 4 bedroom, marble floors, private pool, in a gated community with double security filter, incredible amenities, a sports club. Like I have no words to describe the amazingness. Okay. And to give you an idea, this rented for 40,000 pesos, which comes to oh, sorry, I have it. Oh, Mexican pesos, MXN. That comes to about 3,000 Canadian dollars a month, 3,120. It's a luxury home. And that house will sell it's listed for sale, but the owner was not in a hurry. It's like, hey, whatever, he wants to rent it first. He just built it. The architect lives in the same neighborhood. That house is for sale for 650 US dollars. But we have homes starting at about 250K in beautiful gated communities and up from there. It may not look as exclusive as this, but 3 bedroom homes, not uncommon to get them in beautiful, safe gated communities for starting at about 250K US. Okay, now who wants to live in a gated community? Usually people that relocate to here, whether they're retirees, digital nomads. Yesterday I was on the phone with a Canadian digital nomad. They're an entrepreneur couple from Montreal. They want to just make Playa their full-time home. They're selling their condo in Montreal. They want to initially rent for a year, look for schools for their daughter. That's one of the things, for any of you who are interested, we do have bilingual private schools, reasonably priced. I mean, I would say it's about a fourth of the price of the cost that private school would cost you in Canada, okay? Bilingual Spanish and English. I don't know about French, but if you want your kid to learn French, we have private teachers that can help you with that. Okay. Okay. That's my contact info. David can also provide you that. So one more thing I wanted to show you, David, I'm gonna stop the share and sorry, I'm gonna stop the share for a second. And I want to share with your audience a table of expected closing and ongoing costs that you may have with the property here. And when we look at that, we can also talk about the rental income you can expect. Is that okay, David? I know, but do we have?
Yes,
Okay,
go ahead.
really quick. Okay, sorry, because I know you have we have a few other things to discuss, but I'll really quickly go over this. So closing costs and ongoing costs, okay? I will share this very quickly. Okay, let me make this a little smaller. Okay, a little bigger. Okay. One thing to keep in mind in this area, the acquisition costs, so the upfront closing costs are higher than in Canada, okay? You're looking at 7 to 8% as what we call notary costs. In Canada, we're used to having seller side lawyer, buyer side lawyer. In Mexico, there is one legal professional that intermediates between seller and buyer, and it's called a notary. And the notary here is not like in Canada. Notary here is a lawyer that has at least 5 years of experience. They need to have special licensing, special insurance. Not every lawyer can call themselves a notario. So they're literally numbered and very few. Well, they're numbered, and again, it's kind of a big deal to be a notario in Mexico. Up until this year, it was 7%. As of this year, you can expect, because the acquisition cost went up in Playa del Carmen from 3 to 4%. In Tulum, it was already 4%. So now you can expect this number to go to 8%, okay? In addition to that, we spoke about the bank trust figure that foreigners in this area have to set up. It's 2,300 US at the moment, okay? I'm happy to share this table with any of you who if you want to reach out to me. Okay, your closing lawyer, you can expect to pay about 2,000. Now, again, why the lawyer? We already spoke about the notario. You don't need a lawyer, but if you don't speak Spanish, I highly recommend that you hire an English-speaking lawyer to intermediate with the notary. In my experience, the lawyers from the notaria no hablo inglés, and they don't speak any English for the most part. They really get paid to put the seal on the deed and to register the deed into the public office and take care of all that paperwork. But in terms of reviewing your purchase agreement, making sure that it's worded fairly for you, that is something your lawyer will do. Okay. And of course, I work with trustworthy English-speaking lawyers that I can refer you to. In terms of ongoing costs here, I think the best news about this area is that our property taxes are insanely affordable. So to give you an idea, look at this, my friends. It's about 1% of the property price per year, 1.1. So to give you an idea, for a $300,000 property, your annual property tax you can expect is going to be around 350 US dollars per year. If you paid, I just helped a few of my clients with the payment. If you paid in the first 15 days of the year, you get 25% off. So it's super reasonable. HOA fees, you can expect them to be between $2.5 to maximum $3.5 per square meter. If you're looking at a 100 square meter unit, average it to about 250 to 300 US dollars per month. Okay, it's not you don't hear of HOA fees that are close to $1,000. And never ever have I heard of that, even for penthouse units. It's just internet. Now, in terms of the rentals, I didn't put it on this because this was just closing and expected fees. But David, I'm gonna really quickly tell your clients, okay? A 1-bedroom unit in these desirable buildings on a medium to long-term rental, you will rent for about 2,000 Canadian a month, okay? 2-bedroom units, anywhere from, I'm doing the conversion right now, 30,000 to 3,500. So between 2,300 to 2,700 Canadian per month, okay? So rents are pretty strong in this area. if you're choosing to Airbnb your unit, you need to keep in mind that you're going to have, unless you are an Airbnb pro and you want to be handling at least the online part of the interaction, and then you get your own team in place that can check in, take care of maintenance, then you don't have to pay a short-term rental management fee. But if you're like most foreign owners, you don't want to take that on managing an Airbnb remotely. So typically short-term rental management agencies will charge you a 20 to 25% management fee. Of course, I can refer you to the ones that charge you 20%. I myself handle rentals for my clients. I haven't gotten into nightly rental management yet. I do medium to long-term rentals, but if you are interested, again, I'm happy to refer you to short-term rental management agencies. Typically, if you also want that agency to do actual property management for you, in other words, send in the plumber if the toilet is fixing, do the painting in between, things like that, they, and myself included, there is a monthly fee being charged, and that depends on the size of the unit. You have a 5-bedroom luxury home versus a studio unit, that monthly fee is going to be different because obviously more things can go wrong with a bigger property, right? But overall, the ongoing carrying costs are quite reasonable. Again, the only thing that you need to be aware of that the out-of-pocket costs, you need to be able to provide for that. And I think I'm talking about the acquisition costs, okay? With that said, I want to pass it to you, David, so you can talk about ways that our fellow Canadians can potentially finance their purchase in Mexico. And I can tell you that
Okay.
some of my clients have used some of these strategies that David is going to talk about.
Thank you, Letitia. Does before I jump into it, does anyone have any questions for Letitia? You have your contact info. Maybe you want to type your contact information into the comments.
I'm going to bring it up again if that's okay, David. I think that would be the easiest. My contact info is right here. Uh,
Well, if you type it in, then it'll be there for the rest of the
oh, okay,
thing.
sure.
Okay,
I can
either
do
way,
that.
so people can take a screenshot there.
I
Okay, very
in
good.
Mexico, my friends, if you come from any international destination, you know, WhatsApp is used everywhere else in the world, not so much in Canada and the US, but in Mexico, we use WhatsApp for everything. So if any of you want to get in touch, email is okay. I do check email at least once a day. But if you want to get in touch quickly, WhatsApp is the way to go. Hopefully, some of you have heard of this app and have this app. Uh, I was also surprised that they literally use it for everything, like law offices. Every business here has WhatsApp and uses WhatsApp. 55674363887. I do have an iPhone, so if you wanna iMessage me at the same number, it should be free for you. Okay,
And I know you have sometimes prospective clients come and they visit and you take them on a tour. I know we had somebody you met here and up in Wasaga Beach came down not too long ago and you took them on a tour.
definitely, definitely. If you guys can make time, give me, I would say, give me at least a week heads up, and including if you have any questions about where you should book. I know most Canadians that come to this area for the first time, they will book themselves into an all-inclusive. You're welcome to do so. If you are specifically coming to Playa del Carmen, I'll say try to get a resort within Playa Car, because sometimes a resort will say Playa del Carmen, where it's actually a half-an-hour drive on the highway. So it's kind of an isolating experience. You don't get to get a feel for the area. And the alternative is, of course, you can book an Airbnb, booking.com, hotels.com. We have so many options in this area. If you want to get an opinion before you book, feel free to reach out. I'll tell you, yes, it's good. I can recommend specific buildings to you. I know David, when he came with his wife, they stayed in a building, beautiful building, but it's in a, like, it's close to the entertainment district. And I wish you had asked me, David, because literally you were like a block away
We
from the
probably
nightclub.
did, but we probably didn't listen, you know? So yeah, but we met you in an area there for lunch that was much better, and at least we got to see all the sights. But yeah, it was a complete circus where we stayed. But
A beautiful
anyhow,
building, but the entertainment district of
yeah,
Playa, yeah, it's a busy area.
it was pretty wild. All right, so I'm going to share my screen now. If you guys can let me know if you're able to see this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can see it? Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So how can you use the equity in your property to fund vacation property purchase, mainly for retirees, business owners, and anyone who's looking to make smarter mortgage decisions. So the first thing is when, especially when I talk to seniors or retirees, we call them, they sometimes they'll say, Oh, this isn't about the reverse mortgage, is it? Some people have this preconceived notion that reverse mortgage, and I'll talk more about to you about what that is a terrible thing. And first of all, it's for the right people. It's a wonderful, wonderful solution for the right people. But it's not about product. We have many different products for people at different stages of life. And my job, I've been doing this for 22 years, is just to learn what everybody's goals are, their concerns and priorities, and find the right mortgage solution for you. A little bit about me, as I said at the beginning of the call, I moved to Wasaga Beach about 5 years ago during COVID, when we no longer had to be customer facing. It really, freed up a lot of people, COVID, and changed things. And in our industry, the mortgage business, it really changed it. In such a way that it gave us mortgage brokers a lot more flexibility. So I was able to operate my business from Wasaga, where I've been living for the last 5 years. I'm a licensed mortgage broker and dealing representative. Um, and your next act starts now. That's me. That's my act. Since I moved up here, I've been playing a lot of music. I'm also a musician, in addition to being a mortgage broker, and I do weddings and other things. That photo there was taken at a wedding. It was the first wedding. My wife is a licensed marriage officiant, and that was the first wedding she did, and I played some music. So, what is your next act, and how can you get there? A couple of facts. Many of you will know this. I know we have some real estate professionals on the call. Real estate home prices, I mean, just over the years, they've just really skyrocketed. I mean, steady, steady growth. If you look at the 30-year growth of real estate prices, average home price 30 years ago was around $200,000. It's now over 1 million, um, which is a growth of around 5.76% per year. And that's based on the value of the home. I note there in the next that the return on investment are usually larger, because usually when people buy a property, they use leverage. So you might put down, um, uh, you know, 10%, 25%, whatever it is, and the growth on the property is based on, of course, the whole value, and you get to live in it as a bonus. No guarantees, of course, what will happen in the future, but over the last 30 years, wow, what a performance. Canada is a very desirable country to own real estate, for sure, and it's grown like that. So a lot of people have a lot of equity in their homes, and it's a major driver of growth and wealth here in Canada. The challenge that borrowers have, retirees and self-employed, is that when you're retired, oftentimes your income reduces. You might be sitting on this property with a lot of equity. You have reduced income. If you're self-employed, your income might be variable, meaning sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. And on top of that, if you're self-employed, you don't always look good on paper. You could be doing very well in your business, but what happens, you go to the bank for a mortgage, and the first thing the bank says is, show me your tax returns. Well, your tax returns may not be a very good indication of how you're doing in your business, because tax returns are uh, mainly for purposes of paying taxes. And one of the benefits of being self-employed is that you try and minimize the income that you report for tax purposes. So the banks are kind of in cahoots with CRA, I'll say it. They want you to pay the most tax possible. Um, and that's a problem. Now, the question, of course, is how can you access the equity in your home? And if you're retired and you have the equity, how can you do so in such a way that you can still leave something behind for children, because we don't want to advocate, unless you really don't care, or maybe you don't have kids. But if you do have kids, you probably want to leave something behind for them. And how can you find that right balance of enjoying your life, doing the things that you want to do, you need to do, and at the same time, um, trying to leave something behind for your kids. There are a number of different products, as I alluded to. So the first one, an obvious one, is the home equity line of credit. Gives you total flexibility line of credit. You borrow money when you need it, you pay it back when you've got the money. You can make just interest only payments. Reverse mortgage, you have to be at least 55 years old. There's actually products now for people under 55, and you don't have to make mortgage payments with a reverse mortgage. You can, but you don't have to. So that can really give you flexibility. I'm going to show you a very interesting chart coming up soon. So people wonder, oh, if I don't make payments, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? All the equity in my house is going to disappear. Somebody's going to take away my house. Not the case. And I'll show you why. Mortgages for self-employed. We have mortgage products out there that help self-employed, even if you don't look on paper. We have ways of addressing that. We have A, B, and C lending. A lending is with prime lenders. B lending are alternative lenders that charge a little bit higher rates. C lenders are basically private lenders. I won't lie to you, private money is expensive, and it's not meant to be a long-term thing. Private money is for people, if you just need some money, a bridge, maybe you're stuck with two houses and you're waiting to sell one for some, and you can't get the money elsewhere. If you have equity, there are private lenders who will lend you the money. Line of credit, typically prime plus one. Right now, prime is at around 4.5%. As I said, it's fully open. Usually, you do need to qualify on income. So the qualification criteria for a line of credit is fairly strict. Self-employed mortgages, as I said, you don't always look good on paper if you're self-employed. We have good mortgage products out there for self-employed people, even in the A space, with bank or bank type lenders who are far more flexible than the banks are. I recently got somebody a mortgage at 4.29%, which is a great rate, after a self-employed business owner, after he waited for 3 months. He bought a property, new construction. He waited 3 months for the bank to tell him they could not do the deal. He waited and waited and waited. We got him approved, closed the deal, 4.29%. So lots of products out there. As I said, doing this for 22 years now, will help you find the best solution. What is a reverse mortgage? A reverse mortgage is one where you don't have to make mortgage payments. So imagine you could borrow money, you could take a lump sum, use it, buy a condo, property in Playa del Carmen, or whatever you need. If you need to make your home more accessible for wheelchair mobility, somebody in the home maybe you need money for nursing care. Maybe you want to borrow money and give it to your kids for a down payment, so that they can buy their first property. Interest, as I said, interest rate payments can be made, and the mortgage can be paid down once a year without penalty. And there is no credit or income requirements to qualify for a reverse mortgage. You can get up to 59% of the house value. You have to be a bit older to get that much money out of your house, probably in your 80s. But if 55 years of age, you can still get money out of your house. You don't have to take a big amount of money out of your house. Maybe you just need $1,000 or $1,500 a month to help subsidize you. You can do that too. If there's a mortgage on the house currently, that will have to be paid off from the proceeds of the new mortgage, because the reverse mortgage has to be in first position on the property. And as I said before, you have the option to make payments. So if you have some cash flow, maybe it's inconsistent, but when you have it, you can definitely make the payments. Common scenarios, as I said, you want to buy a property somewhere tropical like Playa del Carmen. You could take out the funds. Maybe you want to make your home more accessible, help kids with a down payment, travel, pay off debts. Uh, could be divorce, and you need funds to pay out the other person. So lots of reasons. This slide here is an important one. I'll do my best to explain it briefly, and I would encourage you to take a snapshot of it. If there's one thing that I want you to get on reverse mortgages, this is it. Please take a snapshot, if you will. You got my contact more information there and everything. Let's say you got a house today, it's worth $1 million. You have no debt on the house. Okay. You borrow $350,000, one shot, 350,000, take that money, call Letitia, buy a condo, Playa del Carmen, whatever. Okay. Now, if that property appreciates by 3% per year, in the next 10 years, that property will be worth, in 10 years from now, that property will be worth 1.343 million, as it shows you in the top right hand corner. Okay, now remember, last 30 years is around 6% per year appreciation. So I think 3% per year is pretty conservative. Okay, no guarantees still, but it's a conservative figure. Okay. Um, and let's say you make no mortgage payments because you don't have to with a reverse mortgage. You make no mortgage payments. The amount of interest that's going to accrue over the next 10 years is 342,385. That's what that figure is there. So because of the appreciation of the house, it basically cancels out, in effect, your debt. You have the same amount of equity. You have the same amount of equity. So this idea that all of your equity is going to erode, um, not likely to happen. Again, no guarantees what's going to happen with the home values. The last few years, market's been soft, but it will probably come around and probably have a spike within a few years, because that's just the nature of things. It ebbs and flows. So 10 years is a pretty good period. And so it's a pretty interesting example. You don't lose any equity given this particular scenario. We're assuming a mortgage rate of 6.5%. As I said, no payments, 10 years, 3% appreciation, no loss of equity in this particular scenario. That's a lot of years you can be enjoying yourself in Playa del Carmen. Um, Tax-free cash, help your kids, no payments required. You can live in up to a fourplex with a reverse mortgage, so you can enjoy the rents as well. Um, Bank will never take your house, not going to happen. Even if the mortgage does, let's say a scenario happened, very unlikely, but if it did happen that the amount you owed on a house was more than the value at some point, they're not going to come after your other assets. Okay. And they're pretty careful. They look at your age, and they know how long you're likely to live based on your age. The age and the house value, that's all that's required for them to make an assessment how much they're going to give you on a reverse mortgage. So you will never owe more than the property value. They will never take your house. And it's not only for people who are in financial trouble. We covered some of the reasons why people are considering reverse mortgages. So again, there's my contact information. It's all about finding the right solution for you. Your next act can start now. Give me a call or call Letitia, and we will help you out. Are there any questions? Let's see. Let's have a look if there were any questions at all.
Thank you, Shiva. And thanks everyone for tuning in.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you very much, Letitia, for the great presentation.
Thank you.
And
My
thank you
pleasure.
all for joining us. And please don't hesitate to call if you have questions, I'm posting my phone number there. And Letitia and I will be very happy to assist you.
Absolutely.
All right.
Again,
Have a great
everybody.
have a great night, everybody. Thanks, Letitia.
Thank you, David. And bye,
Okay,
everybody.
bye for now.
See you soon in Playa.
See you in Playa.